It'll go live in just a second. Oh, we're rolling, man. thanks for being with me, Trev. I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you saying yes to the opportunity.
Of course, and I thank you for even accepting me.
Yeah. Well, did we meet on that? We met on the Matchmaker website.
No,
Oh, okay.
I literally was scrolling through Instagram looking for different podcasts that had stuff that either related to me or I
Yeah.
thought was cool, and so I just reached out.
Oh, nice. Oh, right on. Okay. Yeah, dude, I haven't been on Instagram in a minute thoh. So
Right.
that's why I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense though. That's really cool. And you own um, the Cassaberry Consulting.
Hmm.
You're an author, and
Yep.
it looks also like you have like consulting for like helping people negotiate. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet, man. So tell us like, give me your version of that. I know I ran through it pretty briefly, but tell me a little bit about each of those.
Okay, so my whole journey as an entrepreneur started with Cassaberry Consulting, which I started a year after I graduated college. And my background is in electrical engineering, so
Oh
I got an
wow.
electrical engineering degree. My senior year, I tore my shoulder out of place playing basketball. So that was like February, so like literally 90 days before graduation. And I don't know what it was about that night, because I don't like taking pain medicine. So I didn't want to, it makes me too groggy. I
Yeah.
just stayed up and something clicked in my head like, Trevor, how are you going to pay back these student loans? And this is like finally like you're 90 days away. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay off these student loans.
Oh
So I
no.
had to think. I'm like, okay, if you got $100,000 or $90,000, I'm like, your engineering is only going to pay you 70,000, 60,000. That's not
Oh
enough.
man.
Then it's like, basketball is done. You just tore your shoulder out of place. I don't think you're about to get in shape and go overseas or anything. And then the
Yeah.
only other ways I ever made money outside of that was lifeguarding and math tutoring, and I knew that wouldn't be enough. So that literally that same night, I was like, okay, you got to learn about business and money, and started
Oh
studying
wow.
business from there. So I was self taught. I had friends
Yeah.
that were business majors like my freshman year, and I always remember like I took one of their quizzes because their professor used to let them take let's say they got an 80 on the quiz, they or a test, they could take a blank one back to their room,
Yeah.
redo it to try and get 100, and it would raise their score, half the amount. And I took one of their blank quizzes without ever taking a business exam, and I got like a 75. I'm like, man, this stuff is easy. So,
Yeah.
that's the confidence I went into business with. And I remember that same night I was watching an NBA game, and it was actually All-Star weekend, the All-Star game. And I just decided, Trevor, just imagine you ran the NBA and you could make 10 changes. And I wrote down a list of 10 changes I make, like the open court foul I would get rid of, the playoff seeding I would get rid of. And then, the next morning I woke up, the first thing on my mind was that basketball list of rule changes. So
Yeah.
every day for like that next week, because I couldn't really write, I could only type. I'd be in class just sitting there thinking about what I was writing, and then go back to my room and just be typing it up. Um, Eventually, I got to a point where I was like, this is cool, but now it's looking like it's going to cost like $1 million to do a professional basketball league, to start it as a business. And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
you don't even have $100,000 to pay your student loan, so how are you going to do this? And something made me just say, Trevor, you need to just continue doing it and get more strategic about it. Because imagine you ran into an investor, and it was like you want to be able to just talk to them about it and everything. And with me being in New York City, it's much more likely I'll run into somebody that either plays professional basketball here or overseas or in another city and just comes for the summers. So I'm like, just imagine you ran into Carmelo Anthony or something like that, and you got to tell him about the league. So
Yeah.
that made me really go into business and look at the NBA and write down every single way I could see that they made money. So like insurance, ticket sales, licensing out products, and things like that. And I just started studying each one of those industries. So in the end, I realized I didn't really need $1 million to start the league. I just had a list of the businesses that it took to support the league, right? So you need an
Oh
insurance
wow.
company, a cook, this, that, that. And I realized if all the team owners own these businesses, we can actually get the league going without, so much extra capital, right?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
when I came to that realization, that's what I started teaching my friends when I came home. I'm like, listen, here's this idea, we can all do it. This is what we need. And from there, I had a plan of 5 to 7 years later starting a pro basketball league. That was in like 2016. And 2017, me and my wife moved in together. Literally 2 months after we moved in together, we find out she's pregnant. And I'm like, well, so much for waiting for the basketball league. You got to start something else now. And I ended up going into business consulting because that was kind of, what I was already doing, teaching my friends and family business from when I graduated.
Oh wow, dude. Yeah, no kidding. So that's how this all started, and you get into business consulting. Um, because that's what you're already doing. So what are some of the main things you decided to focus on with business consulting, and do you go after? I don't know if that's the right word, but no, do you cater to any specific industries?
Right. So when I first started, it was really just teaching people who knew little to nothing about business and LLCs and stuff like that how to
Yeah,
even create a business plan. Because my business plan started from 10 changes of the NBA to now a whole professional league.
yeah,
And with my background in engineering, I even like hand sketched how big the gym needs to be and looked for places in New York and got prices. So I'm like,
yeah,
this is how diligent you have to be if you're going to create a real business plan. Because I approached it
yeah.
like an engineering, AutoCAD drawing. And so teaching people that it gave me, more experience of business. In the beginning, I didn't have any niche at all because I was really kind of, very new to the situation.
Yeah.
Now I primarily work with, coaches, consultants, and I've started working with a lot of podcasters recently. Uh, Basically, what was going on was in last year, there's a lot more people started online businesses or adding a coaching and consulting component to the existing business. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah, for
noticing
sure.
the main three issues I was finding across all businesses, but primarily with the coaches, consultants, and now podcasters, was like a lack of manpower if they wanted to, include different services or products, a lack of marketing budget, or they just didn't have a lot of automated systems in place. So like I've even had clients who wrote an ebook, people would purchase it, and then he had to literally email them the link to the ebook. And I'm like, this can't work this way. Like
Right.
if we got you somewhere, you got 100 orders in a day, like you'd be done. So
Yeah.
those were my main three things that I was kind of fixing for people. And instead of teaching them how to create those whole systems, it was like, how about you just partner with one of the businesses I've been working with or another business I know that has those resources in place. So I would teach them, these are the kind of products you can create or these offers you can create that you can leverage and put into other people's offers to kind of bundle them together. So now, as long as it's incentivizing for them and what their clients need, they can now sell a product while you make money. So whether that's you wanted to, let's say you wanted to add a consulting piece onto your podcast, but didn't have the time, I'd link you with a business that has a team of consultants. So now you guys can work out a negotiation with percentages. Same thing.
Oh, okay.
Right. Same thing with automated systems. It's like, okay, you don't have a funnel, you don't know how to create one. How about you put your product into a bundle with someone who has a funnel, and now you just help, send traffic there. And that was
Oh
going
man.
right. So that was going great because it's like streamlining all of these small businesses and making connections, and
Yeah.
definitely was helping me. But I still work a 9 to 5. I work in construction management, so that's kind of where I took my engineering experience.
Uh-huh.
And I had to go back to working in the office in July, and that was my first
Yeah.
time even working in that office because I was originally on the project to be, construction inspection. So I was supposed to be on site.
Uh-huh.
Long story short, I couldn't meet with many clients. I could only meet them on like Sundays for like 5 hours, so that's all I had. And
Yeah.
it just handicapped my business. So I had to figure out how I was gonna adjust. So literally in August, I took the Make More Offers Challenge with Myron Gold, and that kind of just gave me the business model I needed. And when trying to figure out the group coaching method. So I had to figure out what exactly I would teach in group coaching that would be relative to my existing clients and future clients. And that's when I
Yeah.
thought negotiation, because not only was I kind of doing the negotiation and pitching for people, but when I wasn't able to, a lot of clients were botching negotiations, like trying to negotiate in DMs and emails and, just blowing them in Zoom meetings. So that's what I coach people on now. And I'm starting a new challenge that launches in December to kind of streamline people through the negotiation process.
That's pretty sweet. And negotiation, that's a big deal, man. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people, um, they don't. I mean, even I did when I started. My whole background is in sales, and so I spent a lot of time learning negotiation from a lot of really cool people.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I totally understand, and it's hard. Like even when you're good at negotiating, if you're dealing with like a bad negotiator, that makes it even. You know what I'm saying? It's still hard. Like even if you're good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. So what do you teach people? Like, well, let me back up. What are some of the things that you see in people when they negotiate that they're doing maybe not wrong, but that's not efficient?
Right. So number one, it's four main principles I teach people, whether they're doing salary, sales, or like business partnerships.
Yeah.
And number one is you got to be willing to walk away without a deal. It's like
Yeah,
if
man.
you're not in a position to walk away, then you're not really negotiating. You're kind of just begging, and
Yeah.
hiding it at the negotiation table. So the way I like to explain is like, imagine you go into a job interview and you already have a job. You got so much security, you're not really that phased if they lowball you, or if the interviewer is a douche. Is just like, well, whatever. Like, I'll just go back to the job I have. Or
Yeah.
even if you have, imagine you have 10 other offers. You're just like, listen, I don't need this place. I got 10 other offers. you know and then I'd like to tell people, like, okay, imagine you're an investor and you literally got, like, I worked with an electrician before. This guy was making six figures as an electrician, but he was making even more from owning real estate. So he
Yeah.
really just came to work every day because he liked getting out the house.
Yeah. Right,
So
man.
I'm like,
Right.
this guy has the ultimate leverage. So it's like
Yeah.
any problem I had, I was like, listen, I can just go home and watch TV and I'll be straight. So it's like, when you
That's right,
realize
dude.
the different kind of leverage employees can have, or even if you're in sales, it's just like, listen, I got 10 other calls after this. You don't have to buy this. But the quicker
Yeah.
you tell me yes or no, the quicker I can make another set. And like when you say that to someone, they're like, you don't need my money. All right, here.
Yeah.
You know?
But you know what though? You're absolutely right about
Right.
that. That because I've done that too. That's one thing that I learned as well is if it's yeah, if you can't walk away, it's a bad deal.
Right. It's a
And
horrible deal.
yeah, man. And I teach salespeople the same thing. I'm like, there's some customers you don't want, and there's to some extent, right? And then there's also times when, like, you know, you the way I taught it was like customers don't know, like, in their brain, the difference between um not knowing, like, you not knowing what you're doing,
Right.
or and like, being scared, you know what I mean? Because, like, that's what I dealt with, like, new to negotiating, not really know what I'm doing, stumbling over my words,
Right.
doing all that stuff. And to them, it sounded like I was trying to hide something, or, sneak something through that wasn't there, when in reality it was just. But that's kind of like what you're talking about,
Right.
and what that first rule is like, be confident with yourself, go into the negotiation knowing that you can walk away,
Right.
and 90% of the time, that scarcity that you bring to the table gets you the deal.
Right. And the funny part is, every person I'm talking to about, I'm like, all right, the last job interview that you went to, did they ask you if you're currently hired? And they're like, yeah. It's like, exactly. They need to know how much leverage they have. So even if
Yeah.
you're not, tell them you are. Like, or if they say, are you feeling other offers? Yep, got another interview tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So that's number one. Number two is, I tell them, you gotta be willing to able to talk the other person's language. And what I mean by that is, there's a guy named Chris Voss. He wrote the book Never
Yep.
Split the Difference.
Yep.
And you know pretty much for me being in New York, I've done a lot of negotiating for different sorts of things my whole life, even in college, right? Negotiating, I'll do your math homework if you write my paper, stuff like that. And
Right on.
so I had to I found different things that worked well, but I didn't understand why. I didn't know that there were classes and terms for it until I read his book and found stuff online from him. And he broke negotiators down to 3 sections: assertive, accommodating, and analytical.
Yeah.
And the number one thing is, it's hard for some people to figure out which one they are, mostly because there's different levels to it that I found, right?
Yeah.
But, you could, like me, I look way more assertive than I come off in a negotiating room. And then once you realize, oh, this guy's an engineer, it's like, okay, so I can't trick him with numbers, right? It's like I can play around in any field, but some people they have a hard time figuring out who they are, but that means they have a really hard time figuring out who they're talking to. So being around a lot of engineers in college, I knew most of the people in my class. If I wanted to, convince them to be my group partner in the lab or something, I got to use numbers. Like, hey, I got a 90 on my last test. Let's work together.
Yeah, exactly.
When I'm in like let's say a history class or something like that, it's like they don't care if I got a 90 on my last assignment. They want to know am I easier to work with, and it's a lot more accommodating there. Yeah. But then once I started working in construction, it doesn't matter if a guy is like, the smartest guy in the room, the dumbest guy in the room. But if he's been working longer than you, he feel like he has all the power. He'll talk to you like he does. Those are the assertive negotiators. So it's like when you can identify who you're talking to, you can kind of shape what you're going to ask and what you're going to request based on that, or even how you're going to justify stuff. So right. For instance, if I'm talking to an analytical person, I'm going to use numbers and data to prove me right or prove them wrong. If I'm talking to an accommodating person, I might try and find a similarity. Like, do you have kids? And it's like, yeah, I have kids. Like, yeah, me too. And it's just, I would love to do this, but it would not leave me time to work with my kids. I wouldn't be able to pick them up. I'm a homeschool parent. It's like, you're a homeschool parent? Me too. Yeah, we've been through it. You know what? Let's see what I can work with. And because they're an accommodating person. If they're like an analytical engineer, they wouldn't care. They're like, well, take it or leave it. And then, the assertive person, you just got to know, like, you cannot get the assertive person using numbers, because it's like, I don't care about the numbers. That's not what I asked for. Can you make it happen? Can you make it happen or not? Like, expect something like that. It's like, okay, time to work around it. And sometimes you have to be aggressive back with them. And this doesn't just work in in salary and business negotiation. It's just regular interactions. Like, think about, one day your wife just talks to you a little too assertive. You're just like, all right, I'll take out the trash, but watch that tone the way you're talking to me. It's like, you have to really read who you're talking to, and they'll switch. Sometimes maybe somebody's cranky in the morning, so they're more assertive. So maybe you want to, have those meetings in the afternoon when they're more accommodating or analytical. Yeah. So, understanding the person's, not their love language, but their negotiation language is key. Next, after that, I teach them, you got to be prepared to ask, 4 times for whatever you want. And how I like to explain is like when you're talking to your kids, it's like, you're going to have to say it 4 times. Before you tell them finish your food, you're going to have to tell them 4 times. When you tell them, go put your shoes on, you probably gonna have to tell them 4 times. Same thing works in, in negotiation. So, and not only, just asking for the same thing over and over, but like one story I have is I worked with it was like a computer programmer from overseas, and I needed him to do something to put a hidden button and stuff in my funnel. And he had like scripts online showing what he does, and what's capable. And I'm like, I went through the scripts, and I'm like, listen, I'd pay the $150 for access to all the scripts, but I need something specific. Can you do this? So that's like my first ask, really, right? Instead of just paying, I'm like, can you do this in an email? He's like, yeah, I can do that. Here's a script that shows that. I go look at the script. I'm like, this isn't what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this with an extra component plus that, and that I don't see that on the website. Is there something on the website that has that? And he says yes. So now he's saying he can do it. He's also saying there's stuff on the website close to it. So he sends me another link to something else on his website that's close to it. and then like a link to the actual website showing this functionality. And I'm like, that's cool, but I need it to look exactly like this. And he ended up telling me, like, when you pay the $150, I can customize the script for you. Once I get the notification you paid, I'll send the customized script. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I want to know you can do it first.
Yeah,
Right?
I want to know that the script works. So I like to speak as if I'm just one of the employees at my business. So I'm like, I can't release funds until the script, until I have proof that the script is functional.
Yeah.
And now this is the third thing I'm asking him for, and he turns back to me. He's like, look, I can do the script. Usually I ask for extra $150 for custom scripts. But the reason I'm telling you I'll do it is because I know my scripts work, because this is what I do and I went to school for it. So it's a decision if you want to buy it or not. I'm like, okay. He sounds like he got a lot of faith in these scripts. So I paid the $150, and then sure enough, he sent me the script. And I'm like, because I went in ready, like, okay, tell me you can do it. Now tell me you have something that, on the site. Now show me proof that it worked. All right, are you sure it could work? And because I was willing to beat him down, technically I made $150 off the deal, right?
Yeah.
It's like just being willing to take those small steps, do the small, not the small talk, but ask those clarifying questions, because the more you make them confirm and commit to, the less leverage they have on the end to kind of dangle around.
Absolutely, man. That's incredible. and
then,
go ahead.
No, say what you're gonna say.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, dude, I freaking love that, because if more people understood like the principles of negotiating and like how to get what you want in life. By the way, I love Chris Voss. Like, he was one of the classes that I took, the Black Swan training. Right. I ended up going through that, and funny enough, like, this is my claim to fame. I hope one day Chris comes on my podcast, but he grew up in a small town in Iowa that was right next to my town. Like, I knew Voss Petroleum, like his grandparents, you know what I mean? When I was in my hometown, we, small towns in the Midwest share news. It's very easy to go through. And recently, early in maybe it was 2021, earlier this year, like in March, I was looking through my hometown paper, and my mother lived in Mount Pleasant, Iowa at the time, which is where Chris is from. And I read in the Mount Pleasant, Iowa paper that his mother passed away. So it was kind of funny. I sent him like a, hey, I'm really sorry that your mother passed away. And never got anything back, but I was just like, I knew him anyway. It was really funny, but he teaches great. I love that, because it's so true, man. And it just, doesn't it pain you as like a consultant to see somebody in a negotiation, you're like, man, you could do that so much better. Like, you're leaving so much money on the table.
Yeah. I think we're definitely gonna have to find a way to get him on your show. We're gonna have to find a way. I'm gonna work with you.
All right, man. I hope so, dude. But so all right, the last one, number 4, I think. Right.
And number 4 is, and this one I got from Chris Voss, but I kind of phrase it differently, is to use questions in place of your rejections. So I like to tell people, like, imagine, you're in a dance, right? Imagine negotiation as you're doing a salsa with somebody, right? Y'all got to move together. So you're willing to take the small steps and the stuff before y'all start twirling. You're ready to walk away in case they're not willing. They don't want to dance with you, and you're able to speak their language. You know what kind of dancer they are. The last thing you want to do is, like, you try to make a certain move and the person just stops dancing. No. Right? So you don't want to just hit people with no all the time. Like, all right, I know you said it's 60,000. Is there a way that I can pay you 50,000? No. It's like, okay, well, this guy's not gonna work. And the worst is if they actually do the whole 4 asks. Imagine you ask for something 4 times and you get told no 4 or 5 times in a row. You're like, I'm not ever talking to this person again.
Yeah, that'd be tough, man.
So, I always think about, even if this negotiation goes bad, we may negotiate again in the future. So I like to leave things open.
Yeah.
So if it's a no, it's like, I got to understand why I'm saying no and use a question, usually a question that starts with the word how, to get them off their game. So let's say I have a product for $5,000 and someone's like, I have $2,000. Is there any way you could work with me on the price? And the first thing I would say is, okay, how is that supposed to work? Like
Yeah.
you want me to draw up this whole game plan to help you. How about you draw up the game plan about how that $2,000 is supposed to give me what I'm supposed to get? And now the pressure's literally on them. If they have
Yeah.
the perfect answer to give you the game plan, it's like, you know what? This actually was a good idea. I will work with you for the 2,000. But oftentimes they don't have anything planned out, and you're just like, well, since neither one of us can come up with a way that this is going to work, I'm going to have to decline. But here's, and refer them elsewhere.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's something where, let's say somebody wants to put down a down payment, but you always take payments in full. How am I supposed to give you a product of this caliber without getting paid full price up front? And it's like, well, you can take half up front because I know your supplies is probably only this amount, and now they got to guess and come up with these equations. Like, I'm waiting.
Right. Right.
If they give you something good, and just say, like, let's say they give you, all right, it costs $5,000. I can put down $3,500 now and have the other $1,500 available by the end of next month. It's like my follow-up question is like, okay, how many installments do you plan to make? Because even if you give me $3,500 up front, I'm not gonna take 3 more installments of $500. You're gonna have to find a way to get that other $1,500 done.
Yeah.
So your best play is to always put it right back on them. Let's say you're trying to close a sale, and the person's like, you have your analytical clients. They're the ones that's trying to get you. Can I get half up front and then I pay you the rest later? And they just play the numbers. The accommodating guys, they're willing to pay, but they usually want some sort of guarantee. So they're like, I'll pay the 5,000, but are you sure this is gonna work? And it's just like, how am I supposed to know if this is gonna work if I don't know your level of commitment?
Yeah, right.
They're like, well, I'm committed. Oh, are you committed? Because you're questioning me like you want a guarantee. The only guarantee I can give you is your outcome is definitely directly correlated to your input. It's just like, do you want this or not? And
Yeah.
All right, you got me. I was second guessing it. I'll follow directions. All right, well, pay that invoice.
Yeah, that's right, buddy. Yeah, that's right, man.
Those are the guys, or women is just, I don't want to pay anything until I got the product at the end. They're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Why? What's going on here? Like, and
what I miss, yeah.
Right, and I'm always like, what are you like? This is the people that I hit them with a what question instead of a how, and it's like, what are you more concerned with, the price, or do you need some sort of guarantee? Because that's usually the one or two issues. If they say the price, then I treat them like the analytical person. Well, how am I supposed to get your product this? Or I tell them, paying in installments is going to cost more than paying the whole thing up front, right? Either it's going to be $5,000 now, or you'll pay installments and it's $7,000. So if you're worried about price, the cheapest way to do it is just pay in full.
Yeah, of course.
And then if they say, I'm more worried about a guarantee, it's like, listen, I can't give you any guarantees outside of what you're willing to put in, because that's what your output is based on. Yeah. Do you really believe in this? If not, you can go find another program, but understand this program is here for people who's going to believe in it and follow the directions. So I'd rather you only do it if you're going to be committed to it. And now, they go from being assertive to now being analytical or being accommodating. So you just got to move them out of that back to the other two. But those are the 4 principles I teach and how I use them, in my day-to-day basis.
No, that's great. I love how you mentioned, you use questions to put people in other buckets, because I mean, basically what I learned in my career of sales is pretty much the same thing. Like you have A, B, and C customers. And that's how I always did it. And, the A customers are going to be the people who just hand you the money, write the check and then forget about it and get you there. Right. And the B customers are that's the biggest bucket. And they're the people who are going to need a little bit of convincing. And then you have C customers who are just like, they're the douchebags, right? Who just beat you up or whatever, right? They got to do. But I like how you mentioned, because this is an important concept for people to like understand, because we always want to go right for the kill. But I like how you mentioned like using questions to get people to move to certain bucket of customers or framing of customers to get like what you want, right? So like you meet an assertive person, I'm going to have to play that assertive game to move him to the accommodating bucket, so I can close the deal or whatever, or I might have to move into another personality. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
And vice
exactly.
versa. You might be dealing with an accommodating customer who's not committing because they don't understand the numbers, and so I need to move them to like an assertive or an analytical customer, so
Yep.
that I can show them how this is going to save them money or whatever, or justify their investment or whatever, right? So I really like that you mentioned that, because a lot of people miss that, and that's where people get sucked into like these fake sales gurus, right? that are like you can close 100% of the people 100% of the time, and I'm like, if that's what your
Sorry.
goal is going in, yeah, it's probably not going to happen, first of all. And second of all, if you go in with that mindset, you're not going to be able to work it the way that it should be worked, so that you can actually close more deals, right?
Right.
And win more customers, and have more relationships, or whatever the goal is, right?
Right. Yeah. And I've never actually, had a career in sales. All of my
Yeah.
stuff has really been in management and then, entrepreneurship. So I guess you could
Yeah.
say I've worked in sales for my business.
Heck yeah.
Um, but but it's like when negotiation, the reason I was able to catch on to that before, like learning negotiation taught me sales, because it's essentially the same
Yeah.
thing. You just kind of
Yeah, you are.
step
Yeah.
it from a different perspective. And
Yeah, of course.
the what it was is like negotiation, the people that are here at the negotiation table, for the most part, they want to make a deal anyway. Versus selling,
Right.
you don't always know if the person actually wants to buy your product when you reach
Yeah,
out.
yeah, of course.
So
Yeah, of
like
course, of course.
there's at least for good companies, there's no cold negotiations. Like you already
Yeah.
have some sort of incentive and relationship. So that makes negotiating a lot easier just to step into. But again, if you're not comfortable negotiating, or if you've never had to try and negotiate some stuff because you literally didn't have enough money for something, you won't, you'll have a learning curve.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, man, of course. I remember, I mean, that's what I've been in. I've been in sales. I'm publishing a little sales ebook, like I'm putting
Nice.
together for freelancers and 1099 guys, and girls, and it's just so crazy. Like, everybody's a salesperson, and if you're not a salesperson, you at least need to know how to like negotiate, right? Like
Right.
influence and win people over, and learn how to like speak other people's languages. You know what I'm saying? As far as like their personalities and things like that, because it gets real. It can get real discouraging really quick. Even like you
Yeah.
mentioned like job interviews. Like if that's not selling, I don't know what is. You know what I'm saying? Because that's it.
Yeah.
That is the epitome of selling.
Yep.
It's like, I want to work for you. I'm nervous about you as an employer. You're nervous about me as an employee. How do we make this work? You know what I mean? And they're
Right.
gonna try to ask me questions, but I need to be able to do my own thing, and show you what's going on. So yeah, man, it's so true. Like, people just need to know how that works. So, dude, you're doing great things.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So talk to me about your books. You have a
Oh
you have a
yes.
you have a
Yeah.
series. It sounds
Yes.
like.
So I have the For the Hustler book series. So this is For the
All
Hustler
right.
Volume One. I was trying to find Volume Two around here. My daughter probably hid it somewhere, but it's purple and has my hands on it. And
It happened to me, man. It happened to me.
but these were the first. I'm not, I was not a huge book writer of any sort. I never thought I'd write a book. What happened was, I think like a year after I started my business, I started off, like every new consultant, charging by the hour, and I was like, well, I make $28.50 at my job, so I don't want to charge less than that. All right, I'll charge $30 an hour, right? So I thought I was really hitting
Yeah.
them over the head with $30 an hour. And then eventually I moved up to 40, and then 60, and then 100. um
Yeah.
you're only meeting with people for 1 hour anyway, for the most part, so it wasn't really that big a deal. But
Yeah. Yeah.
in the beginning, remember, I was meeting with low income clients who didn't really know much about business, so I'm kind of just teaching them for the most part, versus helping them achieve a goal. For me
Yeah.
to start raising my prices, I had to start moving to different clientele. But at the time, I wasn't really. I hated talking in front of cameras. It's still a little weird for me, but I'm way more comfortable after all of this time. And
Yeah.
because I didn't have much, content online or YouTube or social media, all the clients that were of the caliber that I was looking for, they just didn't trust it. It's just like, who's this random guy with no content? Like, he's just got a bunch of pictures and recordings from classes. I don't even know if that was his class. So I'm like, okay,
Right.
what am I gonna do now? So sales are drying up because my old clients didn't want to pay, but I don't knock them for that, because why would you want to pay 3 times the amount for the same info that's going to take you from 0 to 20%, right? Versus
Yeah.
the people who can go from 85% to 100%, they'll pay whatever it costs to make that jump.
Right.
And because the sales are drying up, I'm like, I need a way to, one, get content out so these new clients know that I'm serious about what I do, and 2, so these old clients are still willing to pay me the $30 without me exchanging too much of my time. I tried a course, but that, again, that only worked for like a middle ground of people, because if you didn't want to pay $100 an hour, you're not going to want to pay for a $500 course.
Yeah.
So my wife, she's a publishing consultant. She worked for like Time Magazine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she had already, when she was pregnant, she took her senior thesis and turned it into her first self-published book, and it was like a collection of poems called Back to Kukrentimi. And Kukrentimi is the city she's from in Ghana, in West Africa.
Okay.
So after doing all of that, her answer for everything business related is write a book.
Write a book.
Can't find clients.
Write something. Yeah. Write something.
Clients not coming back for another consultation. Write a book. Oh, your client made $1 million. Cool. Write a book about it. Like, so it's just like, okay. And I got tired of giving her all the excuses. Like, I don't want to write a business book. Business books are boring. None of my clients read business books. That's why they meet with me, so they don't have to read them. And she's like, listen, right? She's like, listen, you want to make the money, you want to make the $30 off of these people who don't want to pay you a lot, and you don't want to charge them more than that for that beginning information. Put the beginning information in the book, charge them $20 for it, and then boom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so smart. And I couldn't come up with a reason not to. So what I did with For the Hustler, we came up with like a format for her second book first, and then it applied here, which was what we call the motivational quote book. So it's 50 quotes, each with a associated passage, and then a blank page for a reader to write notes for any thoughts that spark while they read it. And these 50 quotes all like teach the top 50 lessons I learned in my first 2-3 years in business. And it's broken up into 4 chapters, which is mindset, business, investing, and negotiation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And what I did to help market the book was, because I knew I didn't have enough bandwidth to market it myself, I pretty much found 50 small businesses online, told them, hey, I'll give you a free promotion in the book, which is a lifetime promotion. That's how I told, I'll give you free lifetime promotion in my book in exchange for you posting it about it in release week. And I'm like, I should have told them the release day, but I'm like, the week of release. So I have 50 businesses in here. So I had, not everyone.
Oh, wow.
Right. So the plan was 50 businesses all post about my book on the same day. That's the goal going forward. But that the first time it was, 35 of them posted in the first week. So that helped me sell, like 50 books in the first week. Things dried up, so I was able to use the book, to help get consultations off. And now if you purchase the consultations, it would come with the book. But that was book number 1. And, I've written a second one since then, but book number 1 still gets the most praise, just because it's like, I like to say it's like my version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, just a lot more modern. Because it teaches those beginner lessons of, okay, you have a skill set, whether you know it or not. You just have to figure out what skills you have that you can sell, and as many different ways that you can sell them as possible. And that's what the book really helps you do. Is just identify your skill set and then monetize it.
That's right, man. And that's the most important thing that people don't understand. And that's why I created the podcast, this podcast specifically, mine, was to have people like you on to show everyone else that you don't have to do anything crazy to start making extra money. Like I love your story. You were like, hey, I got to figure out how to make more money to pay this back. And you just started figuring out what you were good at. And you know what's so funny is, like, I love your story, because the way you explained it, it started with one idea. You realize that wasn't it, but it led you. But if you would have never started with that first idea, it would have never led you to the thing you're doing now, the thing
Right.
that's making you money and what you love. And that's what people don't understand is like, just get to that point. You know what I mean? Just start and let it evolve and work it out and work out the kinks and leave some stuff and keep some stuff, and you know what I mean? And just go, right?
Right. Yep. And
Yeah.
then
Beautiful, man.
that was in 2019. Last year during quarantine, I wrote a sequel, which was For the Hustler Volume 2. And it's the subtitle is The Investment versus the Investor. And I took the same,
Oh wow. Okay.
the same setup with the 50, instead of 50 quotes, I did 50 questions, an associated passage, and then a blank page. And the reason I switched it was because when it came to investing, I started investing in the stock market in 2017. Because when I was learning about business, after I learned about how to make money, I had to think, what do you do when you get money? Like, because I was just under the
How do you
impression
take
all these
care of it?
companies, yeah, well, I was just thinking all these companies just had millions of dollars just sitting in their Chase bank account, right? So
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I learned like, oh, they invested and then they get returns on the money. They take that and invest it here and taxes and this. So I'm like, oh wow, investing, and it just opened up a whole new world. So by the time I
That's
graduated
awesome.
college, I already had a list of the first 10 companies I would invest in. The first one was Navient because I'm like, if I got to pay back student loans, I want some of the money back. So me and my brother invested there. Then a few months later, we realized, oh, nobody's paying back their student loans. We're losing money, so we had to sell those stocks and put it elsewhere. But pretty much what I realized last year was like, this is going to be the perfect time to start investing because anybody that invests knows when the market goes down, prices are cheap, and as long
that's
as
when you buy.
as long as you expect to live long enough for the market to come back, that means it's a good time to buy.
That's
So
right.
the biggest issue with a lot of people is one, they just don't know where to start. Like, if they want to start with real estate, there's millions of plots of land out there. They want to start with stocks, there's thousands of stocks. They want to start with equity, there's millions of businesses. So where do they start? And what I did was I took the same approach, and it was I want people to be able to put in their own investment morals, so they have like their customized way to invest that fits their background and their budget. Because I can't invest like Warren Buffett because I don't know what Warren Buffett knows, and I don't have his pockets, right? Somebody else may not be able to invest like me, even if they have more or less money, just because they don't work in construction. So they may not care about utilities and dividends the same way I might. Maybe they care more about growth and penny stock. So the book is broken down into 4 sections. Investment myths, where I debunk 11 investment myths, like, is Forex a scam? Is marriage a good investment for the primary? Is marriage a profitable investment for the primary breadwinner? Is it a good investment to donate or give to panhandlers? Things like that. So 11 of those.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool.
Then the next 3 are stocks, real estate, and equity. And I pretty much ask them questions that force them to choose a side. So it's like, do you prioritize dividends? Do you prioritize growth stocks? Do you prioritize local stocks versus penny stocks or pink sheet stocks? And then in the passage, I give them the pros and cons to each decision. In the real estate section is, do you prioritize residential property or commercial property? Do you care about low cost property or luxury or high income property? Things like that. And give them the pros and cons again. And same thing with equity. Like, do you want a member managed business or manager managed business and stuff like that? Does it have to be a business that can collaborate with something existing in your portfolio, or are you willing to start with new businesses? And so as they answer all of those questions and go through all of those blank pages where they write their thoughts and their answers, now they literally know, okay, when I go into investing, these are the parameters I'm looking at. So now it goes from looking at 20,000 stocks to now they probably only can see 8 stocks that fit what they're looking for, and it makes it a lot easier to make the decision. So that's why I wrote For the Hustler Volume 2. And a lot of people like it, but number 1 is still the crowd favorite.
Oh, well, yeah, man. I'm gonna have to check out both of them because that's
If
beautiful.
I didn't send it to you, I'll send you the ebooks after this for sure.
All right, all right, and I'll make sure that I buy the physical ones because I love it, man. Because it's so important. Like, as you're talking about all these things like member managed, manager managed, talking about stocks and what kind of things you like to do in equity. It's so important the work that you're doing because it's just people just don't know. You know what I mean? They just and you don't know what you don't know. So you just got to keep going and you got to learn from people who know what's going on and it's dude it's actually really incredible. So I love that we were able to connect, man.
I
I love what
appreciate
you're
it.
doing. I love what you're
And,
doing.
and hopefully
So
next year, I was just
oh,
saying,
go ahead,
hopefully
go ahead.
next year, I'll be dropping For the Hustler Volume 3. I've already started it and then reread it and started it and rewrote it. Because as I'm doing more negotiation and actually focusing on teaching it, so much more content now needs to go into the book. I'm like, okay, switch the whole
Yeah.
format again. I just had to push it back, like just push it to 2022, get the challenge and program for the persuasion program out, and then you can worry about the book. But
Yeah, absolutely.
book three will pretty much break down what I call the negotiation quadrant. So the cash flow quadrant from Rich Dad Poor
Yeah.
Dad.
Yeah, dude,
Pretty
I'm
much
familiar.
took
Yeah.
that and switched it for negotiators. So for those who don't know, it's pretty much 4 ways to make money, right? It's employees exchange time for money, self-employed exchange time for money, business owners exchange other people's time for money, and the investors exchange money for more money. So I flipped it around for negotiators, and it's like employees negotiate salaries and wages, and their whole mindset is, what's the most this person will pay me?
Yeah.
Then self-employed, they shouldn't be negotiating their prices anymore, but a lot of them will negotiate the invoices. So when and how am I going to get paid? So they'll take a
Oh,
client
good
through their
point.
website, but you can also DM them, you can also text them, you can email them. This guy will pay up front, that person can pay half up front, this person gets a customized order, stuff like that. And
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
those are the issues that a self-employed person is typically dealing with as far as negotiating. A
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
owner,
Yeah. Yeah.
they negotiate in partnerships, right? So their main thing is, I'm not messing up my procedures and protocols, and I'm definitely not negotiating my price. But I will work with different businesses as partners or as collaborative offers. So their whole
Yeah.
mindset is, when I make a sale, who all gets paid, and when I get paid, who all has to make a sale, or
Yeah.
for me
Of
to get
course.
paid,
Yeah.
who all has to make a sale. And then lastly, you got investors who are, they just they just negotiate in equity and royalties. So their whole mindset
Heck
is
yeah.
really, who do I want to choose to pay me, right? And that's like the ultimate leverage in the world. Like, I'll allow you to pay me, Microsoft. Here's my $300. Apple, I'll allow you to pay me. Here's my 160. So
Yeah.
it's all about taking that mindset and those strategies and tactics that you would use in that scenario and applying them to when you're in those other three brackets. So
Heck
that's
yeah.
what the book will teach, telling stories from me, clientele, other things I've read, and kind of putting people in that same driver's seat that I've kind of been in as a negotiator.
Wow, man, dude. Hey, we're gonna have to talk when that one comes out. So make sure
For sure.
I'll make sure we stay in touch, and we'll do another one when that comes out, man. Because that's gonna be a
Absolutely.
fun one.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, so I know you got a lot going on. So tell people where they can find you, where they can get a hold of your books and your coaching. And so before we leave, just let me know where everybody can find you and show love.
Gotcha. So you can find me on Facebook at Trev Cassaberry, on Instagram at Don_Travolta, DON_TREVOLTA. You can find me on LinkedIn at Trevor Cassaberry. For my book, you can find it at hustlerbooks.com,
Okay.
hustlerbooks.com. And for my coaching services, first, you can go to Cassaberry.com, which is Cassaberry.com. We have a free negotiation survey there. It's like 3 to 4 questions, and at the end, you'll get your results that tell you, are you an assertive negotiator, accommodating, or analytical. It'll also give you the 5 biggest mistakes each one of them make, and then my customized solutions to avoid them. That way, you can be a better negotiator. If you're looking to, see more about my
Sweet.
negotiation trainings and my challenge, you can go to Cassaberry.com/more, where you'll see the Gain More Leverage Challenge, which again launches in December, where I'll be taking 5 days to teach people how to negotiate like an investor, even when you're in salary, sales, and partnership negotiations.
All right, man. That's gonna be sweet. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I know we're running up on time, but I really appreciate it, man. This was a great interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the time, and it's my pleasure to be back for the next book. Now I got to hurry up and write
Yes,
it.
sir.
Oh yeah, and let's